final curtain, my prayers I'll say clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full, I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I did all more than I could chew, but through it all, when there was doubt, I ended up and spit out. I faced it all, and dodged the tall, and did it my way.
In focusing our attention on the family that we have gathered to speak to today. Today we would like to focus our attention on Herbert's family. His parents, his sister Stella, brother Emeka, Peggy, and his children, and his sister Joyce, I beg your pardon. Also his children, Tochi, David, Hannah, Ugachi, and of course, the larger Wigwe family. We're here today to celebrate his life, in your view.
Indeed, tonight, we're celebrating professional excellence. On the 9th of February, Nigeria, and I dare say the continent of Africa, was hit with the tragic news of Dr. Herbet Wigwe's passing. However, beyond being united in grief and coming together to offer comfort, we're here very importantly to celebrate a life greatly lived and a legacy never to be forgotten. Tonight, we come together here physically and also online for thousands who couldn't be here physically to celebrate a man who was an exemplary illustration of professional excellence.
With that said, we would like to start by reading his citation. And to help us with that is no meager individual. Please join us and welcome the GMD CEO of Access Bank, Mr. Roosevelt Ugbona.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinguished honor of reading Herbet Wigwe's citation. Dr. Herbet Wigwe was born at Island Maternity Hospital, Lagos, to Pastor Shingle and Pastor Mrs. Stella Wigwe on August 15, 1966. Herbet was their third child, coming after Osita and Chilo, and was followed by Emeka, Peggy, and Stella. Herbet grew up in typical post-independence civil service household. imbibing traditional values of integrity, meritocracy, respect, and accountability, which typified and characterized Nigeria's public servants in the 1960s. Herbet commenced his primary education at Port Harcourt Primary School. He was admitted into Federal Government College, Sokoto in 1977, but after his first form, he transferred to Federal Government College, Warri, where he completed his secondary school education in 1982. As a young man, Herbet was mentored by his father's younger brother, Chief Henry Ikechukwu Wigwe, a successful entrepreneur. Herbet continually sought the approval of his father, a strict disciplinarian who prioritized education and ensured that his children went to the best schools an honest public servant could afford. Herbert's love for mathematics and his skill in numeracy were apparent even at an early age, prompting Emeka, his brother, to nickname him ACG, short for Accountant General. In 1983, Herbet was admitted to the University of Nigeria to study accountancy. He graduated with a second-class upper degree in 1987, maintaining his very strong academic track record. His outstanding academic capabilities did not come at the expense of other aspects of his life. For those who knew Herbet, he loved music, particularly Herbie Hancock, and his zest for the finer things were apparent to all of those who knew him. Upon graduation in 1987, Herbet joined the renowned accounting firm Coopers & Lybrand, working in Lagos as a graduate assistant while also studying to qualify as a chartered accountant. Following his qualification in 1989, he chose to pursue a career in banking, joining Capital Merchant Bank as a credit analyst, and post that, he joined Post Capital Bank. He was moved by his zest and quest for additional education, and Herbet continued that quest by applying and becoming a Shevlin Scholar, taken him to the University of Wales, now known as Bangor University, a year after. Upon his return to Nigeria in 1991, Herbet joined Guarantee Trust Bank as a deputy manager in corporate banking. His potential stood out immediately and was very quickly noticed by Fola Adiola and Taya Aderoku, his bosses at the time. And this earned him respect of both his seniors and his peers. By 1989, Herbet was appointed as one of Nigeria's youngest executive director and became an integral part in the leadership of the team that ran Guarantee Trust Bank at the time. Whilst at GTB, he never stopped building his skills and abilities. He embarked on a journey to learn French in the belief that it would be an advantage as he pursued relationships with multinational clients. It was therefore not a surprise that as an assistant general manager, he was able to sign on the coveted Totafina Elf account. This was just one of the several corporate relationships that Herbet was able to convert at the time working in GT. He also led several loan syndication transactions that were landmark at the time. And this he did working with the likes of IFC, the FMO, and other international financial and developmental agencies. He established enduring relationships with successive leaders of multilateral institutions such as the Afrexim, the AFDB, and became their key partner for realizing their continental ambitions. His voracious appetite for learning also led him to acquire a bachelor's degree, even though at old age, in law, and a master's degree in financial economics from the University of London. Herbert's friendship with Igboje Agimokwede commenced at Guarantee Trust. They became kindred spirits, even as their careers followed similar trajectories. They shared a deep and close friendship, built on mutual trust, which blossomed into a lifelong business partnership. In 2001, Herbet and I teamed up in an audacious move to buy their own bank, a story which has become a reference point for many young Africans across the continent. Following the successful acquisition of Access Bank, Herbet was appointed Deputy Managing Director. And over the next 11 years, the duo, as they're fondly called, worked seamlessly together, transforming the nondescript 4th Division Bank into one of Nigeria's finest and the top 5 bank in that period. Upon Aikoje's retirement in 2013, Herbet mounted the saddle as the GMD CEO of the bank. He was given a mandate at the time to deliver the vision himself and Ike shared, to transform Access Bank and our institution into the world's most respected African bank. Under Herbert's leadership, Access Bank became Nigeria's largest bank by balance sheet size and one of Africa's top 15 financial institutions. Under his leadership, Access Bank experienced tremendous geographic expansion, getting into markets like France, the United Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, China. Herbet also shepherded the Access Bank's award-winning merger with Diamond Bank. Post the merger, the institution became the largest retail bank in our market. By 2023, the institution had over 60 million in customers, making it the highest bank within the continent, given the scale and size of its customer base. Herbet bestrode the banking industry like a titan. There's no denying that fact. So much so that he was named Africa Banker of the Year 2 consecutive years in 2021, 2020, and 2021. I think he deserves to be acknowledged for that. Herbert's concern for the industry was not just limited to Access Bank. As the chairman body of bank CEOs, he was responsible for coordinating the industry's response to several national challenges. And believe me, in this period, there were several challenges that the sector faced. In 2022, Herbet was appointed the pioneer CEO of Access Holdings Company, which commenced with an initial focus on the pension sector. Within just 2 years, Access Pension has now become the second largest pension company in our country. Herbet was a true philanthropist. He maintains the bank's corporate citizenship status with a focus on the arts, healthcare, and education, with a passion and commitment that made a national impact through programs and interventions that include the Lagos Access Bank City Marathon, ArtX Lagos, and the UNICEF Access Bank Partnership that was targeted at improving the quality of education to thousands of poor and vulnerable children across Nigeria, as well as South Africa, if I might add. He also co-led the Coalition Against COVID, a private sector task force in partnership with the federal government, NCDC, and WHO, with the sole aim of combating the very feared COVID pandemic crisis that Nigeria had at the time. In 2016, in furtherance of his commitment to philanthropic pursuits, he set up his personal foundation, the HOW Foundation, with a focus on education, health, and youth empowerment. The foundation has adopted 23 primary health centers in each local government of Rivers State. In partnership with the Private Sector Health Alliance, thank you. In partnership with the Private Sector Health Alliance of Nigeria, Herbet has prepared himself for the life beyond profits. Licensed in 2023 by the Nigerian University Commission, Herbert's dream of establishing the Wigwe University was born. The university was set up by leaders and innovators. His vision was that there's no reason why the continent should be left behind because we just had a poor educational system. He was willing to put his money where his mouth is. Herbet got married to his heartthrob, Chizoba Doran Wigwe, in Lagos in November 1995. He used to refer to her as the most beautiful. And so she certainly is, and I believe was. They were blessed with wonderful children. The first child, Cheesy, a spitting image of Herbet, while Tochi, his second child, is Chizoba's carbon copy. A graduate of Georgetown University, Cheesy was, and he followed his father's footsteps with a career in finance as an employee of AFC. Tochi, with degrees from NYU and Imperial College London, has also commenced a career in banking. However, Herbert and Chizoba, for their love of kids, were not done yet with child rearing. After a 10-year break, they added David, Anna, and their last child, Ukachi, to the Wigwe clan. Herbert demonstrated extraordinary dedication to family, never failing to prioritize their needs and desires. From the earliest stages of each child's life, he was there to witness every milestone, offering guidance, support, and encouragement along the way. Despite the demands of his ever-expanding commitments, he never hesitated to set out precious time for his wife, children, and his larger family. His commitment to young people extended well beyond his nuclear family. Herbert had a vision to adopt 1 million children. I think at the last count, he started with 30,000. And he always teased me to say, someday, we'll have a nation where everybody is a Wigwe. Herbert was widely recognized and celebrated for his service to banking and the humanity. In 2023, President Mohamed Buhari honored him with the National Award of Commander of the Federal Republic, an award he truly deserved. The same year, the Rivers State government also honored him with Rivers Gold Star Service Award. It's an honor reserved for an indigene of the state who has excelled in his or her field of endeavor. And Herbert was a true shining star and a great representation of not only the Wigwe family, the Isiopo Committee, the Kwere local government, Rivers State, Nigeria, and of the black race, if I must add. In 2018, Herbert was also awarded with the Honorary Doctor of Business Administration by his alma mater, the University of Nigeria, for his outstanding contribution to Nigeria. Herbert was also bestowed with a fellowship from the Chartered Institute of Bankers, as well as the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. And also it was chartered with a fellow of the Institute of Credit Administration. Sadly, in the morning of Saturday, February 9, 2024, Herbert, along with his wife, Chizoba, his first son, Chizi, and 3 others were involved in a helicopter accident in California, USA. Herbert and his wife have survived. Herbert and his wife are survived by 4 children, Tochi, David, Anna, Ukachi, in addition to his 8 parents and siblings. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, Your Highnesses, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today with a sense of profound loss and feeling of utter helplessness. I feel very, very helpless because I could not prevent the tragedy that befell my friend, my brother, my mentee, and a very, very loyal friend for that matter, Herbet Wigwe, CFR. his beloved wife, Chizoba, and his son, Chizi. Herbet was a visionary role model in fortitude and a perfectionist who gave so much of himself, is no longer here with us. But his transformative strides are seen all over our economic landscape and even in the heart of social milieu in Nigeria and the rest of the world. Many people, including his family members, friends, and associates, church brethren, mentees, and former acquaintances have written and said a lot about a man who broke all records and pushed boundaries in the realm of banking and applied his fine skills to reshape the entire sector. His legacy in philanthropy will always never be forgotten. I choose to remember his long friendship, undivided loyalty, and his zest for life among numerous other attributes. He was a pillar of strength and support for me, my family, and our businesses. He was not afraid to go out on a limb to help me untie the several knots that actually came up as our organization grew and flourished. He was proud to be part of my success story, and I'm proud to name him my devoted friend, mentee, and brother. Herbert's wise counsel and relentless support was central to the growth and expansion of our organization, the Dangote Group. My family and I will forever cherish his warm friendship and heart of care. It is really very difficult to find another Herbet. I owe him an eternal debt of gratitude. Although Herbet never joined the military line, he could be referred to as a soldier of courage and distinction. The incredible courage he exemplified in overcoming adversity and the discipline he manifested in achieving managerial standards of the highest order was awesome. His inexhaustible energy and the capacity for total concentration was extraordinary outcomes gave me the ray of hope, strength, and unflagging zeal to keep sight on my ultimate goal in my business. His big push led my foray into the previous uncharted oil and gas sector, which is now central to our growth as a conglomerate. Herbet will always remind me that, look, my mentor, we will get there, just hang in there, and we will beat any imagination. I remain eternally grateful to Herbet, who immensely supported me in the completion of our project, and he said that, look, my mentor, if I have to give you my life, I will do so. Let's carry on. Herbert's courage was second to none, and he was really, really fearless. He was never scared of anything. Herbet and I share a common principle of perseverance, which is one of the cardinal virtues of success in business. Harry Truman, the 33rd President of America from 1945 to 1953, once recounted in his memoirs that being president is like riding a tiger, and a man has to keep riding or be swallowed. A president has to be constantly on top of events, or if he hesitates, events will soon be on top of him. I never felt I could let up a single moment. Herbet prodded me when I hesitated, gave me a nudge when I was weak, and consoled me with the words of my mentor, hang in there. He will remain unforgettable, friend, mentee, and a brother, and I feel that I'm part of the family. Bidding farewell to a brother, mentee, and a very, very loyal friend, his beloved wife, Chizoba, and his son, Chizi, is an extremely arduous task for me. But I'm consoled by the fact that Herbet has run a successful race and has gone to a better place. To immortalize my beloved friend, my brother and mentee, I have actually decided to name our major refinery and petrochemical road. Out of the 120 kilometers, the biggest road will be now named Herbet Wigwe. Because what I want is that after we are all gone, people will still be there, visit the refinery, and they will find out who was this Herbet Wigwe. He was a man loved by all, and his boundless energy and uncommon zeal resonated in a life worthy of emulation. His friends remain a template in loyalty. May the Almighty God grant him and all the departed eternal rest, and give the entire Wigwe family, which I'm part of, the fortitude to bear this huge loss. Herbet Wigwe, rest in peace. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So 4 nights ago, it was actually Friday night. I was scrolling on my phone, trying to look for some other guy called Herbet, and mistakenly, it was our Herbet, my Herbet, my friend, my brother, my advisor, Herbet Wigwe, whose number popped out again. Why so? On Thursday, February 8th, he and I chatted and spoke for a while. And so, with phones, the name and the last conversation will be the first that will pop out. Very usual of him. Excellency, my radar says you are in London. I said, my chairman, you are wrong this time. I'm on my way from Beijing, China, and I'll be getting home tomorrow. But of course, the very next, I called Shola. Where exactly are you? We're in London. Here goes. And we chatted, and I said, we haven't seen this year a lot of time.
Your Excellencies, the Wigwes, and friends of the Wigwes. This is indeed a very tough season for all of us. I still cannot believe that we're all gathered here this evening, and this is why we're gathered here. It remains unbelievable. I can't but play back the numberless meetings and events in and out of the country, again in my mind. I've looked at pictures and videos of us again and again. Words are definitely not enough to describe how larger than life Herbert was. He was a doting husband. He was a loving father to all his children, both biological children and all those he adopted. He was extremely hardworking. He was daring. He was bold. He was diligent. He was intentional. He was consistent. He was compassionate. He was caring. He was reliable. He was dependable. Herbert was loyal to his friends. He was intelligent from every single account we had this evening. Extremely cerebral. Herbert was way ahead of his time. He was ever so forward-thinking and forward-looking. He believed in this country, Nigeria, and he was very patriotic. He did everything to support and promote the cause of this country. Herbert's paths and I crossed about 30 years ago when he was still a baby banker in Guarantee Trust Bank alongside with Aliko. I saw a bright future ahead of him, but I never knew he would evolve to become the great man that he became. They say the world belongs to those that dare. Yes, he definitely dared. And he conquered. Personally, I can't thank him enough for believing in me, for being my brother and my friend, for supporting my dreams, for supporting my aspirations and my vision for the good people of Ogun State. From the prompt payment of salaries my first day in the office, to the issuance of our private bond, and several visible infrastructure projects that crisscross the landscape of Ogun State, particularly the Gateway International Airport, the Ekpe-Ijebu Expressway, and several others. The history of the new Ogun State will not be complete without the mention of his contributions. He made me appreciate. Thank you. He made me appreciate what he called the speed of trust in government, which was to hit the ground running so as to execute and complete all my planned projects in a tenure. Herbert was always there to provide a bridge. We had so much work in progress coming back from Cairo, but man proposes and God disposes. He was a different person to everyone, selfless and promise-keeping. I want to thank him again and again. God has called him home at the time of his choosing. We mortals see this as his prime. But God indeed knows why he allowed this alongside with his loving wife, Chizoba, and his dear son, Chizi, who is like a son to me. The blow and void of your departure, Herbert, will be extremely hard to feel. Still feels like a bad dream that I'm going to wake up from, and Herbert would walk in anytime and say, "What's wrong with all of you guys? That was just a joke." I'm glad I honored your invitation to dinner at your new home, which has turned to be the last supper. Your name would easily have also been Impact. because you touch lives across the world. We all weep and grieve because of how much we love and miss you. You've lived an impactful life. The other day someone said to me, Dako, did you know that Herbert has a street named after him in Beirut? I was like, so? Because Herbert also impacted the lives of people in Beirut. Herbert lived 2 lifetimes in one. Herbert Chizzy did not do anything wrong to deserve what happened. It was written. It was their preordained exit. Like I said the other day, good and bad things happen to good people. On behalf of my family, the good people and government of the state, I pray the Almighty forgives all Herbert's sins, that of his wife and his son, grant the repose of their soul, while granting his aged parents, his daughter Tuchi, her siblings, other family members, I, all your friends, the Access family, the heart to bear this very tragic loss. You will continue to live forever in our hearts. As the Bible says, he that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live, and whosoever lives and believes in me shall never die. May the Lord keep and protect us all in Jesus' mighty name. We will keep your legacies moving. Good night, dear Herbert.
My name is Herbet Wigwe, and I'm standing here as the chairperson of Federal Government College Warri Old Students Association class set of 82. Herbert was our classmate. I still can't believe that I'm standing here to give a tribute to Herbert. He's our late brother, a friend. I'm still so shaken, but I guess it is what it is. You know, I woke up thinking that this is not real, that it's a bad dream and I'm going to wake up. But alas, it is true. Herbert exemplified many things, and it was different things to different people. He had many constituencies. He had his family, he had his colleagues, he had his schoolmates, he had church, he had different parts, and he juggled his constituencies so well. So I have known Herbert for 46 years. He joined us in 1978 in our Form 2. His father moved him from Federal Government College, Sokoto, and he came to Federal Government College, Warri. And when he joined us, he displayed certain character traits which distinguished him and set him on the path of greatness from an early stage. So I stand here before you to celebrate Herbert. It's not about how long he lived, but how well he lived. Herbert lived a great life. Number one, vision. Herbert always knew what he wanted to become and was prepared to follow that path. I remember in our Form 3 when we had to choose our subjects. A lot of my classmates went the path of engineering and architecture. So they chose their subjects, physics, chemistry, biology, technical drawing. But Herbert was the only one who kept saying, let's study economics so that we can run this nation together. At that age, think about it, all right? And indeed, he studied what he wanted to study, and he came out and he ran a bank, and Access Bank is one of the banks that is systemically important in our country, Nigeria. So Herbert was visionary. Intellect. Herbert was exceptionally intelligent person, and he knew it. He was very conscious of the fact that he carried a gift, and he did not want his gift to go to waste. For this reason, no matter how much Herbert played, he would always make sure that his grades brought him within the top 3 in the class. That was always the minimum standard he would permit himself. From time, Herbert was obsessive about knowledge. He was a true scientist, an intellectual, and will never give up until he got the answers to the many questions brimming in his young mind. In fact, Herbert went into legend in FGC Warri because he refused to give up on a mathematical equation which had defied everyone. He refused to rest until he solved the equation. And when he finally presented the correct answer, and we asked him, "Oh boy, how did you do it?" And he replied, "It was only logical." But beyond academic intelligence, Herbert was also gifted with an acute social and emotional intelligence. He knew how to connect to people. He made them feel at ease in his presence. He will place a demand on you to bring out the gifts he saw hidden in you. He will always find time to reach out and make you feel as though you were siblings, even if not from the same parents. He will rejoice with you, he will cry with you, and he was always there. Number 3, passion. Herbert was very passionate. Beneath his ready smile, his infectious humor was a will as strong as steel. His genius was only given expression because he had the drive to work extra hard, to burn the midnight oil, and to fearlessly go where no one had gone before. Herbert will always avoid confrontation, choosing rather to negotiate and apply wisdom.
Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. From him we come, to him we shall return. I met Herbert sometimes in 1988 when Herbert reported for duty in Cooper's and Library. Then I also newly qualified then as a chartered accountant. And Herbert was brought to Cooper's by his father, Pastor Herbet Wigwe. It was a fateful Friday, and I was going to the mosque, so I was wearing the traditional Hausa dress. So when they saw me on the ground floor, they asked me, where is Chief Oke's office? Then Oke was our partner. I said, it's on the 5th floor. And I was already on the ground floor. They said, can you show us? I said, it's on the 5th floor. The father said we should go to the 5th floor. So I had to walk again to the 5th floor and pass by. Then Auntie Mo's office was somewhere as you climb onto the 5th floor. And I showed them the office. So they entered the office and I went to the mosque and came back. So when I came back, I was sitting in the waiting room. And they finished. Even then, Herbert came with 2 books. I saw him holding 2 books. One was GMAT and one was question and answers in financial accounting. So I said, what are you doing with this kind of books? Herbert said he thought he's coming for a written exam. That means Herbert must have prepared and was still holding those books for revision. When they finished and they were going, Pastor Shingle now called me and said, this guy is your brother, hold him. So he gave me Herbert as my brother, as a friend. And since then, till that faithful day that Herbert died, we have been together. So from that day,
last night I lay sleeping, there came a dream so fair. I stood in the old Jerusalem, beside the temple there. I heard the children singing, and ever as they sang, I thought the voice of angels from heaven answered, and I thought the voice of angels from heaven answered.
Early 1990s, we are part of that initial squad that resumed at Guarantee Trust Bank in the early 90s. We called him Herbet Wigwe. We pounded the streets searching for business and spent long days and nights learning, strategizing, and driving the business. In those days, one needed to have intellect, energy, and integrity to survive more than a few weeks at Guarantee Trust. If any one of the 3 was missing, almost certainly it will indeed be a very brief stay at the Plaza head office. Herbet Wigwe spent over 10 years and had a brilliant career at Guarantee Trust, rising to the unique and top level of the first directors selected by the founders of the bank, Fola and Tyre, to take the institution to the next level. Herbet Wigwe earned his spot because he was a bold and hard-working achiever in the bank. I recall some memorable moves. One Monday, when we resumed work after a long weekend, Herbet Wigwe casually announced on the Plaza shop floor that he had spent the break in India. He got information and pursued a defaulting borrower of his all the way to India, tracking him through some narrow alleyways in the town where the customer was until he found him. Don't hold your breath for scene 2 of the drama. It suffices to state that Herbet Wigwe was confident and bold. Herbet Wigwe was never invited to face Uncle T at the dreaded CAC meetings where delinquent loans were discussed, all because he was diligent in lending and self-driven to collect whatever he loaned. One significant contribution of Herbert to the success of GT Bank were his customer signings. The first sign-on of the major oil and gas multinational in the bank was by Herbert. In the 1990s, GT Bank was a modest new generation bank. To attempt to onboard a multinational oil producing company was audacious. Herbert got to work. He closely marked the local treasury team of the corporation, made great friends with them, often using his personal resources to bond over Friday night drinks. He reached the head office team where their people would come from. He tenuously presented the services and products I had for them and arranged management meetings until they completed and sent in those account opening forms. Herbert was an AGM at the time and got the trophy for making it happen from his sheer tenacity and boldness. The competitive banking environment sometimes led to tension between marketing officers in their quest to onboard accounts. When Herbert and I worked together in the corporate bank business of the bank, there were 3 corporate bank groups, each facing a different market segment. Herbert always stayed in his lane and ran fast and boldly to onboard the businesses in segments. He played fair. Not once did he struggle with other relationship managers over who should market a customer. Smartly, he used his energy to drive his business, not to play games or internal politics. He would sometimes stop by my office to discuss NPR, especially when the numbers were not looking good for the month. He would say, the cards, meaning me, and when he never complete so. When the bank's MD and DMD merged all 3 corporate bank groups into one, it wasn't a surprise that Herbert was appointed head of the corporate bank group, a critical role in the bank. In line with audacious personality, in 2002, he moved on at the peak of his promising career at GT Bank to become a co-founder at Access Bank. Beyond working closely together at GT Bank, we continue to collaborate in the industry. Most recently, with both Access and GT becoming holding companies. Last year, I reached Herbert to discuss developing issues in the non-banking financial sector. I needed urgent, high-level intervention. It's incomprehensible that I can no longer call him or text him. Totally surreal. I'm personally so proud of the world-class university Herbert is developing in Isioko, Port Harcourt, Rivers State, Nigeria. I expressed my pride about the project in a conversation with a good friend of mine just this past January. I said it was his legacy, just as many renowned institutions and the legacy of founders like Stanford, Harvard, Carnegie Mellon, and so on. I wish we would all establish our own legacies according to our capacities and God-given talents. Dear friends and family of Herbet Wigwe and everybody, let us not try to understand this catastrophe. We can't. Let us deepen our prayer lives. Let us pray for their souls. Let us pray for the 2 mummies and daddies they left behind, their children, their siblings, and other family and friends. Let us mourn. Let us pray for all women. Let us pray for ourselves. Let us pray for our various communities and our country. This will give us relief, strength, and a better tomorrow. May God have mercy, as indeed is the God of mercy. Thank you.
We appreciate Kathy Achoso for that moving speech.
Herbert, my colleague, friend, competitor, and brother. Only Herbert
could have been all those things to a human being. That was the breath the gentleman had. We started as colleagues. I met Herbert November 1991. We were both in the corporate bank. This gentleman walked in, didn't take off his jacket because we all had our jackets on, but that was Herbert. He was going to do it his own way. He drove a red Golf. Who drives a red Golf? Only a man who's that brazen drives around in a red Golf. Very quickly, Herbert earned our respect. Herbert was one of the cleverest people in Guarantee Trust Bank. He was a credit analyst. But that's not what got him his respect, because we were all good analysts. But Herbert had what we all didn't have. He had the power to chase accounts, network, and deliver things that we all couldn't. We had another brother who was the treasurer of the bank, Aliko Dangote, who basically, if you know banking, the treasurer owns the bank. And we would have regular fights, but Herbert would never join us. He had no interest in treasury, and all he cared about, as Kathy said, was his own corporate bank and his income. Having earned our respect, Herbert then became my friend, a real friend. We went in and out of each other's houses, I on Festival Road. Again, when people talk about the courage of Herbert, Herbert's first flat was in Victoria Island. Most of us, we couldn't even move out of home. And so when we got there again, he had done something none of us could do. Maybe it was coincidence, but most people might not know. Herbert's first flat was next door to the old Access Bank head office next to Intercontinental. Maybe it was probably and he would normally buy that bank. So we were friends. We all got married in the bank, had our children in the bank. Herbert was always there for me as a friend. Always had a listening ear. And so he became my friend. And we rose, myself, him, and I became executive directors on the same day. The thing about that position is you were then sent to Harvard for 3 months. Mistake. You never came back from that course the same person. Ike and Herbert came back and they had bigger dreams than the bank. And so they bought their own bank. Thankfully, one of us stayed. Maybe the cowardly one. And so I stayed behind. And in the years when they built Access Bank, if you know us well, we compete. And so we became very fierce competitors. They decided they were going to build the best bank, and I decided that we're not going to build a better bank than I am. And so we fought furiously, but never poorly or never badly. And then as we all matured, Herbert became my brother, a real brother. Herbert always had time. He would always make the phone call he needed to get you out of the sport.
I met Herbert, I think in 1989. We were both young account officers in Capital Merchant Bank. There were 4 of us, myself, Herbet Wigwe, Oke, Okuzu, and one gentleman called PC Marco. When Herbert taught, he always says one of the things he learned during those days of tutelage was that he learned how not to run a failed bank, because we saw a lot of things while we were there. So one summer's day, the chairman calls us into his office and told us that this gentleman sitting in the chair in front of him was a chief in his village, and we should give him a facility. Okay? So we went back downstairs and wondering how we were going to go about this. And the gentleman came to our office.
And we gave him a list of the things he needed to bring: his profile, his MEWAT, his accounts, a long list. And the man went back to the chairman, executive chairman, and told him that he doesn't understand what his boys are talking about. And chairman called us to his office, that we've embarrassed him. And he said something that stood with Herbert and myself for a very long time. That never in our lives should we ever, he repeated it, never in our lives should we ever counter any instruction he gives us. That day, we went back to the office, and Herbert said he'd seen a lot of things in his life. He'd received a lot of threats. Nobody had ever threatened his life on this job. In fact, I'm not doing it again. So we had a boss called Tutushule, and then we went up to see her and told her what the chairman said. And Herbert said he's not doing it again. If this is the kind of banking that this man wants to do, he wants to kill his bank, he's not part of it. He's not doing it again. That's how Herbert left Capital. I left the following day. So, as God will have it, in those days that we market, we had a boss called Tayo Adeoyoko. That time, he used to run a shop called First Marina. So during a long time, he normally stopped by his office just to talk about banking, about life, and generally. So he got to know Herbert because Tayo was my boss when I was in Continental. So just about the time we left Capital Merchant Bank was when GT Bank started. And naturally, I started in GT Bank, and Herbert went to Wales to do his master's. I think he came back about 18 months later. When he came back, came in his red Golf, the same Golf, and said, so what's up? I said, okay, so we're here, GT Bank has just started, what's he going to do? He said he wants to work now. So we went up to Uncle T. Uncle T, you remember Herbert? He said, yes, he remembers Herbert. At that time, we used to be three-man team. One of our colleagues, Kule Fashiro, dropped and finished his national service, so we came to Antimo was our group head, was our unit head at that time. So we were looking for a third person to join the team. So Tayo said, but you guys need somebody. So if Herbert is available, why doesn't he join you? And that's how Herbert came to us, but without any interview and anything. We had a lot of beautiful moments. Herbert worked hard. And there was a fun part to Herbert that was very, very funny. I remember those days, our managing directors were using undercuts, both the managing director and the deputy managing director. Then I bought this black Honda. And when I meet manager, naturally, I'd love to buy a Honda just like that. Herbert was a deputy manager then. Before he did, Herbert also bought a blue Honda. So the five of us will park in the car park with our Hondas. The MD, deputy managing director, I, myself, and Herbert. And that's how Tayo and Fola moved up to different cars, and we never caught up with them. One of the fun memories I have about Herbert was that when he got the Honda, he said, let's take a drive to Padakot, let's test the car. Just like he tests his Golf. Let's test the car. So he took our first drive to Padakot. It was my first time of being to Padakot. I never knew I was going to work in Padakot at that time. So we drove from Lagos to Padakot, and the way we stopped in Odisha and different places. It was my first time in the East, thanks to Herbert. When we got to Padakot, we drove around the old Padakot town, went to the waterside. We even took a boat and went to the various villages. And when we came back, his uncle asked us how we spent the day. We told him we went to the villages. He asked us whether we were mad. Then the following week, it was my turn to take my own Honda. I said, we're going to go to Djibouti. And my wife said she was going to follow us that day. So When we got to the toll gate, we saw this Mercedes Benz that was bashed. And we were arguing along the way that nobody in a serious mind drives Mercedes Benz that is bashed around. But somewhere along the line, on the Sagamu Expressway, apparently they were armed robbers and they were trying to stop us. So Herbert was in front, my wife was at the back. While I was busy concentrating on how to escape, my wife noticed Herbert bending down in the car, struggling. And she asked Herbert, Herbert, what's going on? Herbert said he's transferring his money into his source. So that when, in the case they take the car, at least we'll have money to find our way back to Lagos. So luckily they didn't take the car, and we laughed it off. But that was Herbert for you. Herbert was always speaking ahead. Always speaking ahead. Just like Kathy said, the day he came into the office and said he went to India to pursue because my world stormed. Herbert went with his own resources to pursue this guy, because we all knew the guy at that time. And I handed over that desk to him, and I warned him about that guy. And because I warned him, he knew the consequences if he goes to Precise Asset Committee to go and defend why that credit went bad. Herbert on his own, with his own resources, went to India to go and pursue this guy. I can't believe it. I'm not sure I could have done it. I'm not sure I've met somebody who could have done that kind of thing. So when I started working in Access Bank, I tell my colleagues and those that work with me that, please, if you want to go and have a presentation and you want to stand in front of Herbert, please, this is the type of person Herbert is. Do not tell him it's not possible. Please, do not take no for an answer. You must go the extra mile to make sure you deliver. That's what Herbert demanded of all of us. Please, honestly, I can go on. I can go on forever. All I know is that his memory will be a blessing to all of us. He's a great guy, we're going to miss him. But the commitment I'm making here is that the good work he started, which he didn't finish, we will make sure in our lifetime we continue and try to finish as much of it. God help us. Thank you.
Herbert and I intersected in our lives on 2 occasions. Somewhere around 93, 94, I was a young one, doing my NYC in Port Harcourt. He was a bit older than me. Uche Wigwe was a bit younger than me, and we had a crew of friends at Okie, Modiayo. So I met him very likely then. In a social manner. Our future meetings was in somewhat more tense circumstances, in a bit of a butting of heads between the banking industry and the telecoms industry. And Herbert and I tested ourselves, and we had a bit of a battle. But he was always professional and he was always polite. And after the battle was over, he invited Roosevelt and myself to Capital Club to make peace. And that was the beginning of a friendship that blossomed in so many ways. He visited my home several times, met my daughter Damilola and my wife Roke. And as I got to know him better and better, I said one thing. I said, you see those Access boys, they're going places. They were already well established, but the intensity and ferocity in which that organization was run by all of the people that built it was incredible. Eventually, everybody in my house was using Access Bank as their bank account, and I was advocating for all the staff of MTN to open Access Bank accounts. That tells you the kind of relationships that we built. It was a deep personal relationship that grew over time. On the 16th of August 2023, my wife lost her brother to cancer. And Herbert was chasing some transaction, I think in South Africa, he had City Central Bank, and he called and he said, I can't be there, but you will see us. And as we worked at the church for the beginning of the service, Roosevelt was right at the front, which meant he had got there well ahead of the time and was with us until the end of the proceedings. And Herbert was calling, expressing his sympathies. One thing that touched me about Herbert was his generosity to people, the larger society, his children, everyone that he met. We became good friends. Every time he came to my house, he drank my most expensive cognac, which I've been saving for about 5 years, and promised me that I would drink the same with Atilu Peterside, and it would be even more expensive, but unfortunately that opportunity never came. The story about the customer in India is urban legend. I've heard it was in Singapore, on the nightclub, on the top floor of a nightclub. I've heard it was in Lebanon. It seems the real version is in there, but it is urban legend in the banking circles. Herbert became such a friend that we attended so many functions together. I remember about 2 years ago, he said, I must, together with Ralph Mopita, my group CEO, who's standing here, sitting there, and flew specifically for this event, we must attend the polo. And I still have this picture of myself, Ralph, Herbert, of course, right at the middle, Igus, and Roosevelt. And it just breaks my heart when I see this. To Herbert's daughter, Tochi, to David, to Hannah, to Okachi, he adored you. And I think above everything else, he wants you to be happy. I will close by a very small tribute, and I try to save a bit of time, in saying one thing to all of us here. You died twice. Once when you lose your body, the second when people stop speaking your name. Let us speak Herbert's name every day. Remember him every day until the day we leave this earth. Farewell, my good friend.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Herbert was, is, and still will live with all of us. I had the privilege of first meeting Herbert in September 2001 at Harvard on the PMD program that's been referred to. That was a unique experience, I have to say. I'd not come across someone that exuded such confidence, backed up by intellect and emotional connections that are hard to properly put words to. But alongside that, he had a hugely mischievous nature. He had a laugh that would light the room up. And I guess the best example I can come up with, we had a Roman toga party. So we were dressed in sheets, sat next to each other, with music going on in the background, while we were having quite an intensive conversation around Nigerian politics and the way that things needed to change. And I found the experience quite surreal, not least that it went on for a long time, until Herbert had convinced me that he was absolutely right in every respect, which in fairness he was at the end of the conversation. What I didn't realise then, that Herbert had specifically gone to Harvard to be ready with Ige to buy into what was then a very small Nigerian bank, which was the foundation for the access we currently know, with more to come. 6 years later, I came across Herbert again. I was approached by a third party mentioning Access Bank. I didn't realise at the time that Herbert was involved. And I hadn't been to Nigeria before, and it piqued my curiosity. I should have known better than to jump on a plane with an open mind and then meet Herbert in persuasive mode, I think it would be fair to say. And one of the best decisions I ever made, to have the pleasure.
I've known Herbert for over 36 years. He read accountancy, I read banking and finance, he was a year ahead of me. Something very unique. 1987, in his final year, there was a program, Finance Week. And we had a guest speaker that spoke. A lot of people applauded the speaker. At the end of it, Herbet called, great guy, but you weren't looking up. As a leader, you must look at the face of people. You must be courageous. You must exude confidence. You need as much as possible to imbibe that character. And so that's about Herbet, speaking it the way it is, and also very courageous and fearless. He remains a beacon of light and hope. Was a top-notch professional banker with sterling qualities. He worked tirelessly and made very significant contributions to the growth and development of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, the banking industry, and the entire economy. Herbet served as a member of the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria and the chairman of the body of Bank CEO for 3 consecutive terms, making him the only bank, making him the only bank CEO to have served 3 times. Herbet was an advocate of change. In his capacity as the chairman of the body of Bank CEO, we cannot forget in a hurry his pivotal role in galvanizing the industry to provide succor for Nigerians during the COVID, where he led the industry to donate a total of 8.6 billion to support Nigerians during that COVID era. The birth of Sanwolu, which was a special purpose vehicle for driving financial inclusion, was also birthed during Herbet as the chairman of body of Bank CEO. It's on record that during his tenure, and also under his leadership, Access Bank produced unprecedented 4,660 chartered bankers between 2018 and 2022. Again, that made him to be the only CEO that had produced that level of.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so Herbet was relentless, he was restless, but he was also fearless. I think it's important in celebrating him, to understand that he had relentless determination. His ambition, he was restless because he needed to achieve. And he was fearless in his belief that there were no challenges that he could not surmount. He was relentless in his pursuit of excellence. He didn't do anything in half measures. He was restless, constantly looking for the next opportunity, not pulling his punches, in identifying the opportunities. He was never content to simply coast. And more importantly, in the period that I knew Herbet, as chairman of Access Bank, Herbet and I would always set what we considered to be audacious targets. Targets that looked extremely impossible to achieve, but we worked 5 to 10 years ahead, and every time we got to the end of that period, we suddenly looked back and we had achieved those targets. They didn't come easily, but they came all the same. So fear was something that did not exist in Herbert's vocabulary. He was fearless in his belief that he could achieve. But one of the things that I would like to celebrate the most about Herbet. So everybody talks about education, and we talk about education because we talk about Wigwe University. But that's not really the essence of Herbet, at least with respect to education. The essence of Herbet was his deep love of education that he wanted his children to achieve. He wanted them to go to the best schools in the world. He wanted them to be very like him. And I remember when our children were taking SAT and SSAT tests, and Tochi is smiling already. You would think that it was Herbet that was taking the test, because he was there reading the text. He was there almost literally, if they allowed him to sit with them during the test, he would have sat in the room. But it was important to him, extremely important to him, that his children should achieve. So we ended up with a situation where Chizi and Tochi went to the best schools in the world, both high school and college. That is the essence of Herbet. So Wigwe University, great idea. Global standards. Nothing else that we will see like it in this past for a long time. But Herbet, within the family, made sure that education, and not just his biological children. I can talk about Chim, I can talk about OJ, because he made sure that it wasn't just about him, it was about the community, the family, and he set those targets and he achieved it. Herbert's support extended actually beyond the immediate family. And I thought, we speak of him as a banker, we speak of him as an entrepreneur, we think of him as a governance expert. But quintessentially, Herbet was a family man, a very committed family man. So Herbet, with his relentless pursuit of excellence, his restless ambition, his fearless determination, leaves behind a legacy that we will not forget. As we bid farewell to his physical presence, may we carry forward his indomitable spirit and commitment to education, to excellence, to unwavering determination, Herbert's impact on the lives of those around him will continue to inspire and guide us in the days to come. To Tochi, to David, Anna, and Okachi, you can be rest assured that your father's legacy, his pet desires, the things that he focused on, particularly Wigwe University, his friends will make sure that those objectives are achieved. Thank you.
My name is Toji Lormai. I started working with Access Bank 2004, about 20 years ago. I started as an escort driver attached to Mr. Ike in Beko. I worked with him for 2 months to 3 before I was deployed to work with Mr. Herbet Wigwe, late Herbet Wigwe. Before I started working with him, there was an event I had to go for, which Madam Dorian Wigwe, we had to travel to Obosi in Anambra State. I led the convoy. Excuse me. On our way back, I don't know what she saw in me. She asked our driver then, late Kamal Yusuf, to park around Gagada and ask the escort driver to come. I got to her and she asked, "Can you walk with Herbet?" I said yes, but I have some few concern. That was 2006 towards August, December. And I was supposed to get married around 2006 December. For the fact that I know the nature of work, how we work, the way we close. So I told him I have a concern. I told her I have a concern. One said, we will look into it. Some days after I started working with him, he traveled and he was supposed to come back on Virgin Atlantic, that early morning flight. I left my house around 8 o'clock, was going to work. I got into a popular event then in Lagos called One Chance. I was beaten and badly battered. I managed to get home. Tochi here found out that this was the situation. Immediately the father came in the morning. I'm sure Tochi mentioned to him. And while we were going to work that same morning, he spoke to the president, CEO Access Holding, get my driver a car. And that was the beginning of the benefit a lot of junior staff today do benefit in Access Bank by a fully depreciated car, which are still very good on Nigerian roads. I later told him I want to further my studies. He said, "Sunji, if you really want to further your studies, make sure I don't look for you when I needed your service. Arrange the movement." I said, "Okay, sir." I did. I finished my first degree. And I told him I want to do my master's. All through the way, he's been there. completing that program, one early morning, I went to thank him for everything, and he needed more. I told him now I'm a graduate. I need something else to do rather than driving. He said, okay, we'll discuss it. Before I knew it, HR called that I should submit my documents. Within a short time, I was given a professional job in Access Bank. I work in administrative departments. Thank you. He said, okay, Tuji, now you've gotten a job. Can you go and face your administrative job? I said, no, sir. I understand the benefits in between. I said, no. The nature of job I have, I can do other things. I can work with you and also do my administrative job. He said, okay, if you think you're fine. We went ahead. Appraisal comes, he's always supporting me. Family-wise, he's always there. I know one thing about him. You cannot easily approach him if you are not prepared. He might not be smiling, but he's ready to support you all through the way. At some point, I had some family issues. I wanted to talk to him. I would get close to his office, I would run back. I would be close, I would run back. The face is always very tight. I put on a courage another day and I went straight to him. Sir, this and this and this and this are what problem I have, and I want you to look into it. He said, okay, Tuji. It's okay. Before you know it, it's always there. He's a noble man. I had many opportunities through him, and today, when you hear him talk, if you are wise, you listen, because I gain a lot of fearless and strong drive from him. The nature of work I do made me to learn that whatsoever you hear dies inside you. It's a profession, but I thank God today. And I want to speak to Access, the warriors, and the fearless. There's one thing he usually says: you keep going. No matter how difficult the task is, you hear him say, we keep going. Lastly, in my conclusion, I worked with him for almost 20 years. He has never insulted me, but one day, he said, Tuji, are you freaking bunker? I don't know the meaning. I felt bad for some days. But before the week runs out, the late Herbet Wigwe did something wrong, and he said the same. Chizzy, are you freaking bunker? I said, okay. I'm sure he doesn't have any arm. He doesn't have anything inside him. He's just trying to see that.
Please put your hands together for him properly. You can do a lot better.
Thank you so much, Tunji, for sharing a bit of 20 years working with Herbert. And now we have it for you.
I've known Dr. Herbet Wigwe for 21 years, 23 years, 1 month, and 9 days. Precisely 2 years ago, when we transitioned a holding company, I've anxiously looked forward to a day when the cream of the society and captains of industry the world over will converge and celebrate my boss at his retirement, which he was planning and working towards. But if it please the Lord that we celebrate him the way we are doing today, we cannot question God. Herbet was a highly intelligent, self-motivated, and you'll be surprised by 8 a.m. everybody is in the office looking very fresh, as if nothing happened the previous night. I have countless memories about Herbet, but one of the testimonies, or one of the memorable events I never forget, has to do with his old lifestyle. Herbet used to smoke. And each time we have those long meetings, and maybe the figures are not adding up, he will send for me. So, and each time he did, I will start binding and losing. The reason is because he was going to ask me for a stick of cigarette. So, and I dare not delay bringing it, because he will either tell you his head was busting, or that he will go bonkers. So I'll bring it, but after that, I'll go and start praying. And I was praying and praying for him against the spirit of smoking and all that. But as God will have it, before long, Herbet became a changed person, and he stopped smoking. What I do not know is whether it was my prayers that changed him, or whether it was the fact that he had godly parents who were praying for him, or it was the banking tsunamis, the horrible experiences we went through when they first took over the bank. But whatever happens, whether it's my prayer or the prayers of the parents, or the horrible experiences they went through, because in the history of Nigerian banking, I don't think there are any bank CEOs who saw what Herbet and I saw. But God was with them. They went through it all, and here we are today. Herbet has always been there for me. He was my sunshine. He remains my hero because he gave me the platform to flourish. I see him every night since he died, because almost a week after I heard this news, I wasn't myself. Precisely on February 14th, we were in the office together, and what he requested for was his list of friends, which I handed over to him, and before long, he returned that same list to me with a whole lot of additions, added a lot of new names, And as I settled down to work on it, because he told me he needs it urgently, as I settled down to work on it, I suddenly woke up only to discover it was a dream. Herbet left us with a legacy of hard work, a legacy of fearlessness, a legacy of excellence. And I believe the message he has for every one of us here is that we must not let that legacy die. For those of us who are not his friends while he was alive, he wants me to tell you, your name is one of those names that were added to that list, and he wants you to join us as we start his journey where he stopped it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria. I met Herbet in 1987, I think, in Coopers and Lywood, although that one, His Excellency said 88. But I entered in 1987. Herbet valued relationships. And the first time that was tested, or that became known to me, was when I was in a relatively small bank. And I told Herbet I'd joined the bank, and he asked me what my plans were. Herbet and I had just moved to Access Bank. And he told me to consider trade finance after I shared with him what I was going to do in that bank. And I told him I'd not done trade finance, and he said, I will help you. When we have transactions, we will call you. And in less than 3 days, I had not prepared a team. Herbet called me, and he said, Coco, the first transaction was here. So I told him no team yet, and he said, don't worry, the team in Access Bank will work with you, but be on this transaction. Less than a month after, Herbet called me and said, Coco, you have to be in Abidjan. And I said, what's happening in Abidjan? And he said, Afrexim will be having a conference. You have to meet the executives there, and they support trade finance. So I flew to Abidjan, called Herbet, and he said there'll be a team, the first meeting of the presidents and some bank CEOs, and I should attend the meeting. And I said, Herbet, I've not been invited. And he said, yeah, but follow me, just follow me. We entered, and of course they were checking names, and Herbet held my hand, told the person at the gate, this is Coco from Nigeria, he has to come. And I entered the place with Herbet. I had meetings, I was listening to all this for the first time. And when the session ended, I said to Herbet, we'll see. He said, Sike, there's dinner, we have to go with it. Again, I was not invited. Herbet with me. We finished, and I said, Herbet, so later I said, no, we're going to have drinks with them. So this time, of course, the population was reduced. And there I was with Dr. Rama and the former president of Afrexim, with Herbet having drinks. And from that point, I got initiated into trade finance, and it was Herbet. We were article clerks in Coopers and Lywood.
Herbet and I met for the first time about a quarter of a century ago, right after the Nigerian elections. And I set foot on the ground representing FMO, the Dutch Development Bank at the time. And ever since, I followed developments in the banking sector, but especially with Access Bank closely. So when I heard your host say that the European CEO is 25% of a Nigerian CEO, I realize he's been very generous. The Nigerian market that I found at the time was in need of great people, with drive, passion, ambition to move it forward. When we met for the first time, it was immediately clear Herbert was one of these people. Shortly after that meeting, Herbert followed up and visited us in The Hague. And he did actually exactly what we did with our Nigerian partners. He did a due diligence on FMO, the Dutch Development Bank, because that's the way he saw business. Equality of institutions was as self-evident as equality of people, a value that we shared. From here on, we built a professional relation based on a strong personal connection that would grow into a long-distance friendship. Our different backgrounds enriched and strengthened that relationship, as it gave us more to learn from each other. I am grateful for having been part of that. And moreover, Herbert and Ike showed me how deep a friendship can go. Our relationship deepened alongside the incredible journey of Access Bank. Visiting clients in Port Harcourt with Herbert is one of my fond memories. And soon, FMO became one of the first international partners of Access Bank Nigeria. One memory I have is that Herbert could be convincing. When Access Bank had to deliver on the increased minimum capital requirements imposed by CBN, Herbert and Ike flew in to discuss with Arthur Arnold, FMO's CEO at the time, to fast-track the conversion of FMO's convertible loan into equity. The meeting was just before Christmas. The deadline was January 1st. I witnessed two warriors that did not come to fight, but that also would not leave until they had won. In my 16 years, in my 16 years at the institution, I have never witnessed a more efficient process. And, of course, the conversion happened. It was the first of many impact initiatives that were jointly done with Access Bank. And I'm not sure if you are aware, but the Nigerian banking system defined the Nigerian sustainable banking principles more than a decade before any European market defined their sustainable banking principles. Another fond memory is one of our dinners. It was an Italian restaurant called Imperial Romano at the Amstel River in Amsterdam. Herbert had his best ever sea bass. It was baked in the oven in a crust of sea salt, so no flavor could escape the dish. He enjoyed it. With Ike and Roosevelt, we discussed, laughed and shared a glass. And we discussed sometimes quite visible differences between the Nigerian and the Dutch culture. Herbert surprised me with his liberal spirit, explaining that every human being should be free to pursue happiness as long as it does not infringe on the freedom or happiness of others. He showed me a prejudice of my own, as I had not expected a Nigerian banker to be more liberal than many of my countrymen. Herbert explains that even in his conviction that people should be given the tools to develop themselves and then take the responsibility to actually do so. Tonight I witness this is the philosophy behind many, many of his initiatives. What is, over the last days, what happened is that I realized that Herbert's voice trespasses time and place for me, at least. I can still hear him in this unique tone, this unique intonation, laughing, saying, "Oh, rude." Herbert, I miss you as an example, as a force for good, as my Nigerian brother.
Herbet Wigwe, CFR, and of course his wife, Chizoba, and his son, Chizi. Our hearts are heavy, and we just have to try to encourage ourselves with the wonderful life and legacy he has. Herbet Wigwe was my friend. Today, we gather to honor the life and legacy of a truly exceptional individual, Herbet Wigwe. Herbert's passing on February 9, 2024 was a sudden and profound loss. Yet, as we come to terms with this loss, it is important that we celebrate the life of a man who dedicated himself to excellence and to service.
And staff of Access Holdings PLC and its subsidiaries, as well as the entire Wigwe family, I stand before you humbled and deeply grateful for the outpouring of love, admiration, and respect for our esteemed leader and co-visionary of the incredible transformation of Access Bank. As today's event comes to a close, we would like to thank God Almighty, who gave us the gift of Herbet Wigwe and also stretched his hands of favor and strength upon Herbert's life, making him a vessel of his glory while he was here on earth. Next, we would like to offer a special word of thanks to Herbet himself. His vision, his exemplary leadership and commitment to excellence has left a mark on our continent, nation, and across the Nigerian corporate space. Though Herbet is no longer with us today in body, the spirit of excellence and pride in Africa lives on in all our hearts and minds. We would also like to extend our sincere thanks to our distinguished speakers who shared their heartfelt tributes and fondest memories of Herbet tonight. We are deeply grateful for your willingness to be vulnerable, sharing your memories and reflections on Herbert's impact, not just in Nigeria, but across the African continent. I thank you all for all the things you've been doing to immortalize Herbet and the support you'll be providing to his family, as well as the Access Nation family. Thank you. We truly appreciate all the presidents, governors, excellencies, royal fathers, elder statesmen, and our distinguished guests. We are immensely grateful to all of you for taking the time to join us in celebrating the life and legacy of Herbet. Your presence here tonight is a testament of the profound impact Herbet has had on all our lives. However short or long, direct or indirect, we are truly glad that you are part of our support system during this difficult period. We are not oblivious to the pain Igoje, Herbert's twin, is currently experiencing from Herbert's tragic passing. Our sincere prayer is that the Almighty God will comfort him, guide him, and give him wisdom as he goes through this session. Our deepest gratitude also goes to the dedicated team members who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure every detail was well attended to. Your hard work, dedication, and commitment to honoring Herbert's memory have not gone unnoticed. We all appreciate you. Lastly, but not the least, I appreciate the citizens of Access Nation. I urge us all to carry forward Herbert's vision with courage, conviction, and relentless dedication, knowing that the greatest tribute we can offer is to honor his memory and make him proud in all that we do. We have a number of events going forward, and we would appreciate as many of you that can join us on it. Thank you, and I pray that God Almighty will enable Herbert's legacy to continue to inspire us all. Thank you very much.